Picture a single individual holding the invisible strings that dictate global desire, controlling the very items that make millions of people around the world save for months just to own a single piece of leather or a tiny glass bottle of perfume. This is not a fictional mastermind from a cinematic thriller, but the reality of the modern economic landscape. The man orchestrating this massive web of aspiration, heritage, and unparalleled wealth operates with a quiet, almost invisible precision that belies the sheer magnitude of his empire. He is the ultimate architect of modern luxury, a titan who transformed a regional manufacturing concern into the most powerful luxury conglomerate in human history. His journey from a provincial French childhood to the absolute pinnacle of global wealth is a masterclass in strategic patience, ruthless execution, and an uncanny ability to understand the human soul's deepest cravings. To study his life is to understand the very mechanics of modern capitalism, where the most valuable commodity is not oil, gold, or microchips, but the intangible, irresistible power of a brand name. The origins of this extraordinary narrative begin far away from the glittering avenues of Paris or the exclusive boutiques of Milan. Bernard Arnault was born in the spring of 1949 in Roubaix, a heavily industrialized city in northern France known for its textile manufacturing and working-class heritage. He was not born into the romantic, artistic world of high fashion, but rather into the pragmatic, hard-nosed environment of French industry. His father, Jean Arnault, was a highly successful and deeply disciplined industrialist who had taken a struggling civil engineering and manufacturing firm called Ferret-Savenel and transformed it into a thriving, highly profitable enterprise. The family environment was one of strict academic excellence, financial prudence, and a deep, almost religious respect for the mechanics of business. Young Bernard was expected to follow in his father's footsteps, to learn the intricate details of industrial production, and to eventually take the helm of the family manufacturing empire. He was sent to some of the most prestigious and rigorous educational institutions in France, culminating in his graduation from the École Polytechnique, one of the most elite engineering schools in the country. This technical and analytical foundation would later become his ultimate secret weapon. While his future competitors were drawn to the romanticism and emotional appeal of the fashion world, Arnault approached it with the cold, calculating precision of an engineer, viewing luxury brands not just as artistic endeavors, but as complex, scalable machines that needed to be optimized, structured, and perfected. Upon completing his elite education, he did not immediately jump into the family business to take over his father's domain. Instead, he convinced his father to let him handle the company's real estate and construction division. This seemingly mundane assignment was actually a brilliant strategic maneuver that allowed him to operate independently, make his own high-stakes decisions, and prove his worth without the overbearing shadow of his father's daily oversight. He successfully navigated the complex, highly regulated world of French real estate, but his ambitions were far grander than building office blocks and residential complexes. In the early 1980s, he recognized a massive macroeconomic shift. The traditional manufacturing sector in Europe was facing severe stagnation and declining margins, while the global appetite for premium, high-margin consumer goods was beginning to surge, driven by emerging markets and a growing global middle class. He approached his father with a radical, almost heretical proposition. Pivot the family company away from its industrial roots and use its accumulated capital to acquire struggling, but historically significant French consumer brands. His father, recognizing the sheer brilliance and the audacious nature of the plan, agreed and handed over the reins of the company to his son. This was the exact moment the modern luxury empire was truly born. The first major test of his new strategy was nothing short of a high-stakes gamble that would have bankrupted a less confident or less analytical executive. In 1984, he set his sights on Boussac Saint-Frez, a massive, deeply indebted textile and retail conglomerate that was on the verge of total financial collapse. To the outside world and the financial press, Boussac was a sinking ship, a toxic asset laden with crushing debt, obsolete factories, and thousands of unprofitable employees. But Arnault saw something entirely different hidden within the chaos. Buried in the sprawling, deteriorating ruins of Boussac was a single, glittering jewel. The House of Dior. At the time, Dior was a shadow of its former glory, its licensing rights fractured across the globe, and its brand equity severely diluted by cheap, mass-market products that had nothing to do with true luxury. Arnault executed a complex, highly controversial financial maneuver. He bought the company for a symbolic single franc, assumed its massive debts, and immediately shed all the unprofitable industrial assets, laying off thousands of workers in the process. He kept only the Dior brand, restructuring it entirely, buying back the scattered and damaging licenses, and restoring its exclusivity, prestige, and pricing power. It was a breathtaking display of financial engineering and brand rehabilitation. Within a few short years, he had turned a catastrophic liability into one of the most profitable and desirable fashion houses on the planet. This single, ruthless move established his reputation not just as a shrewd businessman, but as a visionary who could see the hidden, monumental value in forgotten heritage. The spectacular success with Dior provided the capital, the confidence, and the market credibility to pursue an even more ambitious, industry-altering vision. Arnault realized that the future of luxury did not lie in standalone, independent fashion houses that were vulnerable to economic downturns and shifting trends. The future lay in the creation of a massive, highly diversified conglomerate that could share back-office resources, leverage immense economies of scale, and dominate multiple sectors of the luxury market simultaneously. In 1987, he orchestrated the monumental merger of Mot Hennessy, the premier champagne and cognac producer, with Louis Vuitton, the undisputed king of leather goods and travel trunks. The newly formed entity, LVMH, was initially plagued by internal power struggles, a clash of corporate cultures, and a severe lack of clear strategic direction. Arnault, through a series of aggressive, highly calculated, and often ruthless stock market maneuvers, gradually acquired a controlling stake in the new conglomerate. He faced fierce, bitter resistance from the established aristocrats of the French business world, who viewed him as an outsider, a provincial industrialist trying to hijack their cherished cultural treasures. But Arnault was relentless. He outmaneuvered his rivals, consolidated his absolute power, and was eventually appointed the chairman and chief executive of LVMH. He had successfully built the ultimate vehicle that would carry his vision to the absolute pinnacle of global commerce. With LVMH firmly under his total control, Arnault unleashed an acquisition strategy that was both methodical in its planning and devastatingly effective in its execution. He did not just buy brands, he systematically resurrected them. When he acquired the struggling fashion house of Givenchy, or the fading leather goods maker of Loewe, or the historic watchmaker of Hublot, he applied the exact same highly successful formula that had worked so miraculously with Dior. He would install a brilliant, often highly unconventional creative director to generate massive media buzz and artistic credibility, while he and his tightly controlled corporate team managed the ruthless expansion of global retail networks, the optimization of supply chains, and the strict, uncompromising control of the brand image. He understood before almost anyone else in the industry that luxury was no longer just about the quality of the product, it was about the entire retail experience, the artificial scarcity, and the carefully crafted mythos. He transformed the dusty, exclusive, and intimidating boutiques of the past into monumental, architecturally stunning temples of commerce in the most expensive cities in the world. He pioneered the concept of the megastore, ensuring that when a customer walked into a Louis Vuitton or a Dior boutique, they were not just buying a physical item, they were buying into a meticulously crafted, immersive, and highly profitable fantasy. His relentless expansion was not without its fierce, highly publicized, and incredibly bitter battles. The most notable and dramatic of these was the legendary war for Gucci in the late 1990s. Gucci, under the revolutionary creative direction of Tom Ford and the brilliant operational leadership of Domenico De Sole, had been miraculously resurrected from the brink of bankruptcy, and was enjoying a period of explosive, unprecedented growth. Arnault, recognizing the immense, untapped value of the brand, began quietly accumulating shares on the open market, eventually becoming the largest single shareholder. The management of Gucci, terrified of being absorbed into the massive LVMH machine and losing their hard-won creative and operational independence, fought back with everything they had. They engaged in a brutal, years-long legal and financial war, ultimately issuing a massive block of new shares to a rival French conglomerate, Kering, specifically to dilute Arnault's stake and block his takeover. Arnault was furious, launching massive lawsuits, demanding regulatory intervention, and waging a fierce public relations campaign. Ultimately, he was forced to sell his shares at a massive financial profit. While he lost the tactical battle for Gucci, the war cemented his terrifying, awe-inspiring reputation in the global business world. He had proven that no brand, no matter how fiercely protected by its management, or how beloved by the public, was safe from his relentless pursuit of perfection and market dominance. Behind the polite, impeccably tailored exterior and the soft-spoken, highly cultured demeanor, Arnault is known in the industry by his famous nickname, the Wolf in Cashmere. The moniker perfectly captures his complex, dual nature. In person, he is consistently described as charming, deeply polite, highly educated, and genuinely interested in the artistic process. He speaks softly, listens intently, and treats his creative directors with a level of respect, financial backing, and artistic freedom that is almost unheard of in the corporate world. He gives them the absolute freedom to dream, to experiment, and to push the boundaries of design without worrying about the mundane details of production or distribution. However, on the business and financial side, the cashmere is removed, and the wolf emerges. He is utterly ruthless, demanding absolute perfection, relentless year-over-year growth, and strict adherence to his exacting financial targets. He has absolutely no hesitation in firing legendary, world-famous designers the moment their collections fail to resonate with the market, their sales figures dip, or they become a distraction to the brand's core identity. This unique, highly effective management style, combining absolute creative freedom with draconian corporate control, is the secret, unstoppable engine of his empire. He has managed to retain some of the greatest creative talents in the industry for decades, creating a stable of artistic directors who have defined the aesthetic of the modern era. Beyond the boardroom, the retail floor, and the relentless pursuit of quarterly profits, Arnault is a man of profound cultural passions, particularly when it comes to contemporary art and architecture. He is one of the most significant and influential art collectors in the world, amassing a staggering, multi-billion-dollar collection of modern and contemporary masterpieces. But he does not merely hoard these treasures in private, climate-controlled vaults. He uses them to elevate the cultural status of his brand, his city, and his country. His crowning cultural and architectural achievement is the Fondation Louis Vuitton in Paris, a breathtaking, sail-like glass building designed by the legendary architect Frank Gehry. Located in the beautiful Bois de Boulogne, the foundation is not just a museum, it is a monumental, multi-hundred million euro statement of corporate power and cultural patronage. It houses his vast art collection, hosts world-class, highly attended exhibitions, and serves as a physical, towering manifestation of his core belief that luxury and high art are inextricably linked. The building itself, with its massive, complex construction, astronomical budget, and years of legal battles, became a global symbol of his willingness to invest billions in projects that offer no immediate financial return but provide immeasurable cultural, social, and brand capital. His immense wealth, unparalleled power, and towering public profile also come with the heavy expectation of societal responsibility, a role he has navigated with calculated, strategic generosity. When the iconic Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris was engulfed in a devastating, highly publicized fire in 2019, shocking the entire world and threatening to destroy a priceless piece of global heritage, Arnault and his family immediately pledged a massive sum to help rebuild the historic structure. This gesture was widely praised across the globe, reinforcing his image not just as a ruthless capitalist, but as a dedicated guardian of French heritage, culture, and history. However, his philanthropy is always deeply intertwined with his business acumen and his profound understanding of the socio-political landscape. He knows that to maintain the highly favorable operating environment required for his massive global empire, he must be seen as a vital benefactor of the society in which his company is headquartered. He navigates the incredibly complex world of French politics, strict labor laws, and international trade tariffs with the exact same strategic brilliance he applies to his retail expansion, often acting as a crucial, indispensable liaison between the French government and the global business community. Today, Bernard Arnault stands at the absolute zenith of global wealth, influence, and cultural power. He has repeatedly been named the richest person in the world, his net worth fluctuating in the hundreds of billions of dollars, consistently surpassing the founders of the world's largest technology and e-commerce companies. This is a profound, historically significant shift. For decades, the title of the world's richest person was held by titans of heavy industry, oil barons, or technology pioneers. Arnault represents an entirely different kind of power. He is the undisputed king of desire, the master of the intangible value of a brand name, the architect of an empire built on leather, canvas, perfume, and the deep, psychological human need for status, beauty, and belonging. His company, LVMH, is a financial and cultural colossus that touches almost every conceivable aspect of the luxury market, from the legendary wines of Chateau d'Yquem to the precision watches of Tag Heuer, from the minimalist fashion of Celine to the inclusive, highly disruptive cosmetics of Fenty Beauty. He has successfully integrated the historic, the artistic, and the highly commercial into a seamless, unstoppable, and infinitely profitable machine. As he moves into the later stages of his extraordinary life and career, the question of succession and the future of his massive empire has become a major focus of the global business press. Arnault has meticulously, carefully prepared his 5 children to take over the empire, integrating them into the highest levels of the company, giving them significant stakes in the holding company that controls LVMH, and teaching them the intricate dynamics of the luxury market. He has instilled in them his core, unwavering philosophy that the brand is always infinitely more important than the individual, that historical heritage must be fiercely protected, and that continuous, respectful innovation is the only path to long-term survival. He has built a robust, highly resilient corporate structure that is specifically designed to withstand the eventual loss of its founder, ensuring that the empire he built from the ground up will continue to dominate the global landscape for generations to come. His legacy is not just measured in the staggering, almost incomprehensible financial wealth he has accumulated, but in the fundamental, permanent way he transformed the entire luxury industry. He took a fragmented, romantic, highly emotional, and often inefficient collection of artisanal workshops and turned them into the most powerful, profitable, and culturally significant corporate entities on the planet. The story of Bernard Arnault is the ultimate, definitive testament to the power of vision, strategic patience, and an unyielding, almost obsessive desire for perfection. He is a man who looked at the world and saw not just what it was, but what it could be sold for, and more importantly, what people would pay to feel a part of it. He understood early on that in the modern, highly connected world, the most valuable commodity is not found in the ground or manufactured in a Silicon Valley lab, but in the human imagination and the desperate desire for exclusivity. He built an empire on the ephemeral, the beautiful, and the highly aspirational, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that the pursuit and sale of luxury is one of the most lucrative, enduring, and resilient enterprises in human history. From the dusty, loud factories of his youth in Roubaix to the glittering, heavily guarded halls of the Lies Palace, and the exclusive, marble-floored boutiques of every major capital on earth, his journey is a masterclass in the art of the possible. He is the quiet, unassuming architect of our modern desires, the wolf in Cashmere who conquered the entire world not with weapons, politics, or technology, but with a perfectly stitched handbag, a beautifully cut suit, and a timeless, intoxicating bottle of perfume.